Hello everybody, welcome to another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 VR video. Today we're in the Airbus A320, which is a bit of a change from normal. We're doing a video on the virtual controls. As you can see, I have my virtual controls out today, and some of the improvements that have been made in the last 6 months since we did a virtual controls video. One of the major gripes I had last time I was trying the virtual controls was the inability to access anything in this on-screen menu. If you brought this on-screen menu up at all, I'm not sure if it was my setup at the time or bugs in the initial implementation, but I wasn't able to select anything at all using the virtual controls in the on-screen menu, and now that is fixed. So you can bring up the various options, move them around your flight deck, and resize them, do everything you need to do to interact with the game as you like. We'll get some, let's get some sunlight in here. So there we go, let there be light. Let's go for dawn. There we go. 4 a.m. Seems like a beautiful time to take off and take a flight. So that's one thing that's changed. You're able to interact with that on-screen menu. Another thing that's changed is, as you can see, I have my pointers on my right and left virtual controls. You're able to disable that very easily now by just pushing the A button on the right control by default, and that will turn the pointer off and force you to actually reach out and touch the various controls of the aircraft in order to manipulate them, which adds quite a bit of realism to the experience. So if you're in a plane like this that has a lot of different buttons and dials and levers, it's actually quite a bit of fun. So let's start pushing some buttons and dials and levers. Let's turn on the batteries. We will turn on the fuel pumps. It doesn't look like we have any fuel in the center tanks, so I'm just going to turn on the wing pumps. We'll get the APU going, which is the little engine in the back that provides power to the plane independently. I always used to think that was providing thrust. It's the little nozzle on the back of a jumbo jet. Looks like a butthole. I don't think it's providing thrust. I think it's really just providing electricity. So what we can do now is turn on the APU bleed, get some air going in here, some virtual air. And now that that's started, it would be a good time to take a look at our MDCU, which is our flight computer. So I'm going to do one of the few keyboard interactions that's required here in the A320. I'm going to zoom in here on the MDCU to take a look at our initial data, make sure everything's entered reasonably well, make sure at least we have some takeoff speeds that we can use. That looks alright. I really don't have any idea what I'm doing. I think MDCU stands for Marvel DC Cinematic Universe, and or is that Marvel Disney Cinematic? Either way, if you want to enter your flight plan manually, if you want to enter your fuel and balances manually, knock yourself out. We're not going to do that here. We entered our flight plan into the Flight Simulator default flight plan UI, and it transferred pretty well into the flight computer here. So let's take a look at the route that we're going to be flying. Today, we will be flying from Mariupol International Airport in Ukraine to Gelendzhik International Airport in Russia. We'll be flying over the Sea of Azov, through the Kerch Straight, and taking in the sights along the way. Alright, so now that we're familiar with our route and our computer looks like it's set up alright, let's get our engines started. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to turn on some lights, because it's always fun to just flip switches. I mean, come on. How much fun is that? And look at that, we've got some illumination around us now. So let's see, we've got all the fuel pumps, making sure everything is set. To turn on the engines, again, I have no idea what I'm doing. Got our engine 1 started, which I think is our left engine. At this point, I'll point out that I did add a few controls to the default mappings for the virtual controls, one of which is this zoom feature. So if I click my left stick, it zooms in on whichever panel on the flight deck I'm currently looking at, which is nice. It's very helpful because as you can tell, these screens aren't exactly legible at this resolution. My graphics are kind of butt. I've been working with the OpenXR toolkit quite a bit, but I think there are definitely limitations just to my hardware that they can't be overcome, unfortunately. But I have fun anyway, and I hope you're having fun as well. As we turn this second engine on, get things spun up, we'll get the heck out of here real soon. Let's turn on the let's turn on the flight recorder. So pardon me a moment while I switch views. Let's see. Yes, I'm in Steam. Here we go. Alright. Flight recorder is running. And back to reality. We've got our engine spun up. We've got parking brake off. Looks like we're clear around us. Let's get out of here. Not sure what phase the moon's in today. I'm not sure even what day it is. I don't have live time or weather on. I guess I could have been more observant when I had the weather panel up. Alright, we're going to taxi out onto the lone taxiway at this airport. I'm going to try not to clip the fuel box. We'll check in the replay whether we actually clipped the fuel box or not. Hopefully we gave it enough clearance. Never quite sure of that. Now we go onto the taxiway. We'll give it a bit more power. Alright, we're going to stop short of the runway, click a few more buttons, flip a few more dials, and then we'll be off. Let's see. Let's arm those. Armed. Alright, 5,000 is a good initial altitude. Here we go. Out onto the runway. Alright, so we'll kind of speed down the runway here a bit. The only stick control on the virtual controls that I'm using is the right stick, which is mapped to the rudder and the nose wheel. I don't have rudder pedals, so that's pretty much the only non-virtual control that I'm using currently. But hey, DM me and I will send you my Venmo, and maybe next video we'll get some rudder pedals. Live the dream. Alright, we'll roll out to the end of the runway here. We'll hit some brakes just to, yeah, that's, maybe we should hit some more brakes. Alright, that seems like a reasonable speed. Turn around, face the numbers. Oh, keep moving. Alright. That's good. Good enough for virtual reality. Alright, wow, those are on. Let's not have those on. Is that 0%? Let's take the flaps down. Don't think I adjusted the computers for the degree of flaps I'm using, but don't care. We're leaving. We're gonna spool up the engines. Looking good. And here we go. Into the beautiful crack of dawn. Dawn's rosy fingers. Alright, we're passing 100. Moving the stick to neutral. I think we just took off. Well, we're off. We're climbing, we'll take the flaps down. And let's hit the autopilot. Why not? Hit the autopilot. We'll take this down to climb. We'll let the speed go up a bit, and then we'll hit the last level of flaps. And then we'll sit back and relax and enjoy the flight. So yeah, virtual controls in an A320 are pretty nice because it pretty much just flies itself. You push a lot of buttons, you set up a lot of things, and the most I've had to use the stick so far is landing and takeoff. I haven't really landed in much of a crosswind or harsh weather, so I haven't really had to use the stick much at all in this thing yet, which isn't to say I haven't, just for shits and giggles, but you really don't have to. You can just sort of sit back from this point and let it fly itself. So we'll climb a bit. We'll get to, let's go to, oh, let's not go to 0. Let's go to 20,000. Now here's one of the idiosyncrasies of the virtual controls. This knob has two states, as you can see. You can pull it out and you can push it in to engage select altitude mode or engage managed altitude mode. And at first I was wondering, you know, how do you do this? What do I have to do? Do I have to map new buttons to to do the push and pull, but no, you just pull. And we've just selected the, what did we do? We did the select altitude mode. Now, pushing is kind of a different story. I have had to do the second customization of the virtual controls to get the push-in mechanism on these knobs to work. I just mapped it to the squeeze button. The only other control that is mapped to the squeeze button for me right now is the brakes, which aren't really used in the air much, or even on the ground much, so as long as you're stopped or flying, it doesn't really matter. And so we've got our altitude coming up. We've got our climb set so that we'll eventually hit 20,000. We'll hit our heading, and that'll be it. We'll just sit back and enjoy the ride to the Kerch Straight out over the Sea of Azov here. To the left is Russia, to the right is Ukraine, and we're headed for one of the most hotly contested maritime crossings in the world right now. So let's enjoy. Oh, you can turn off the APU. Seeing as we're drawing everything from the engine now. Could have done that before we even took off, but I forgot. Because again, I have no idea what I'm doing. I never set the altimeter. I should have done that, but I didn't. It's okay. No. Let's turn that off. Let's go to standby. The knobs don't always do what you want, but this is so improved from the last time we did a virtual controls video. It's night and day. Speaking of night and day, the rosy fingers of dawn up to our left, the last vestiges of the night sky to our right. Beautiful. So another fun thing to do in virtual reality is to stand up. Really something you can't do at 18,000 feet generally when you're going 320 miles an hour. So why not? Let's do it. And here we are. We're approaching our cruising altitude. I never turned the seatbelt sign on, did I? Well, yeah, no smoking. But you can get up. It's a nice view, isn't it? There's Russia. There's Ukraine. Sea of Azov. let's go faster. What do you say? Yeah. Let's go 350. 353. Engage. Should put us just a hair below the overspeed warning. What fun. So ahead of us is the Kerch Straight. There is a bridge crossing this inlet of water that is very strategically important and has been a flashpoint over the past few years. We may see it if the cloud cover doesn't block it, if we're not up too high. One of the nice things about Microsoft Flight Simulator is you can fly in restricted airspaces without worrying about it. We would have a surface-to-air missile up our asses so fast if we were flying out over the Sea of Azov with our radio and transponder off and lights off. Seems like the kind of thing that wouldn't be appreciated. Even though we're just on a sightseeing tour, folks. That's all we're here for. that's the bridge. Let's go see. I've got control. Taking her down at a aggressive rate of descent. Fine. Throw out some speed brakes. Come on. Come on, speed brakes. Don't fail me. There we go. Speed's coming down. Nose is going down a bit more. Altitude's coming down. Yeah. Overspeed. I get it. Come on.
2,500.
Let's take the speed brakes off. That's just how little feel you have for this, is just taking the speed brakes off. We were banked like 20 degrees. I think this is the bridge, I think. Maybe? Is this the bridge? It doesn't really look like a bridge. Looks like a glitch. Is that a bridge? I think that's it. Yep, okay, that's it. That's the bridge, right? Wow. Fantastic. Alright, let's go back up to our cruising altitude. Speed brakes are off, auto speed's on, we'll begin our turn onto the sightseeing tour leg of our journey along the coast of the Black Sea. Russia, sunrise, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Kerch Straight, everybody. That was it. We survived. We are virtually alive. So many inoperative buttons. That's one of the draws of some of the paid models. I know there's a new Airbus, is this an A320 or A380? I think this is a 320, right? The Neo? I think it says on the tail. Let's take a look. I can't quite see the tail. But different models have varying levels of support for virtual controls. I would not recommend the stock 747 right now unless you don't mind using something else to control the flaps, because I can't get the flaps to work for the life of me. Certain planes will have certain controls that you may find just don't work in VR or don't move as you would expect them to. everything in this model that works pretty intuitively. It's really nice. I hope that developers really take the time to test and fix their VR controls as part of their release cycle, because it really does enhance the experience, especially again if you're in a big plane. We haven't talked about fly-by-wire yet. I think that's another important criteria for using virtual controls. You know, if you're in something touchy that, you know, really responds to all of your inputs, and you know that you need to maintain control over at all times. Virtual controls are definitely not perfect for that. You have hardly any feel for what you're doing at all. But if you're in something like the A320, like the F-18, you know, a jet plane that is fly-by-wire, where you can really point it in any direction that you like, and it will continue going in that direction and adjust itself. Well, I'm so sorry about that overspeed. Yes. And the plane will fly itself in that direction. It really doesn't require anything other than just pointing and letting the plane do the rest. And so for virtual controls, that's really nice, because it really assists you and fills in for not having that feel for the air at all. I think this is the first sunrise I've seen in Flight Simulator. It's pretty nice. Right. So we have Gelendzhik coming up on our right up ahead. I'd like to explore the coast of the Black Sea a bit more. There is a point of interest I'd like to take us to, and show. And I think now that we are approaching it, I'll get down to a comfortable altitude for sightseeing. Take it down to 2,000 feet. And we'll slowly start descending. Much more controlled dive than our descent towards the Kerch Straight. See what happens when you just let the plane take care of itself? It's beautiful. Alright, I'm going to take control of the plane here. Overspeed.
Overspeed.
Yeah.
Overspeed. 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 There are a lot of lovely private beaches and estates along the coast over here. Up ahead is Sochi, where the Winter Olympics were held. And then coming up on our left here in a few minutes is a point of interest I wanted to show. It's a little dacha on the coast of the Black Sea with its own private beach, vineyards. It's just beautiful. I saw it on Zillow, and they wanted $1.4 billion for it, which, I don't know, to me seems a bit extreme, but I'll take you in for a look, and you know, you can judge for yourself. I think it's a bit, I think they're asking a lot for that, for this property, but you know, it's apparently a motivated seller. They're having health issues apparently, or so the rumor goes, and so they're looking to liquidate some assets. I think they may have run into some issues financially as well. So we'll see here in a moment. I think it's just coming up on the left here. Yeah, there it is. 1.4 billion for this property here. It's pretty much the whole hillside, so you got to take that into account. But I mean, come on, it's got its own beach as well, and its own landing, which that's nice. Additionally, you know, it's worth mentioning that we were talking about restricted airspaces earlier. This house, strangely enough, has its own restricted airspace. So if that's something that interests you, maybe that's worth the $1.4 billion. But otherwise, I'm really not seeing it. I mean, it's pretty, but at the end of the day, as we've just seen, here less than a half an hour as the bird flies from a war zone. So take that into account, I think, in your calculations. Seems a bit extreme, like our bank. Don't think we're supposed to be banked this much, but it's fun. And come on, there's a stick here. What else are you supposed to do with it, right? We're turning around and we're getting a better look at this place. Because I tell you what, if you're going to spend over $1 billion on a property, you're going to want us to know what you're getting. So here we are. It's up ahead. this whole hillside here. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's an underground hockey rink or sex dungeon or something like that. But as it is now, a couple hundred million, maybe? I'm not sure. I mean, what do you think? Oh well.